Yeah. So last time we were just developing our thing on the mental education, the mental aspect, the logical thinking, the thesis, antithesis was something that we were trying to touch upon. So today I thought we'll take a few examples. So for example, if we want to develop our logical thinking, a few examples can be taken here that how to go about it. So I'll be sharing one example and then we can talk about that in detail. So imagine that there are two persons, Ram and Sham, and Ram is asked to deliver a parcel to Sham, and he is being provided with the address Sham ka. So he comes back and brings the parcel back saying that the parcel could not be delivered since Sham was not at home. And when he was asked that why, how do you know that that Sham was not home? He says that the door was locked. So that is the situation. Now, how can we use this to build up logical thinking? For logical thinking, there are a few things that are necessary, which is the data that is there. And also we have to make more complete the data. So we have to substantiate the data more and more. And one can see that actually the data will always be less. There can be more aspects added on to the data in any example. So in this example, how can we go about exploring this? That starting with the fact that if maybe Ram has taken up a wrong address, maybe he reached a wrong house, and then we don't have to analyze it at all. That is Sham really not home, or why was the parcel not delivered? But if how to make us sure that Ram's conclusion that Sham is not at home is correct? How to make sure? So we'll just explore this. So just share your reflection that if you send your own child or maybe a fellow to deliver a parcel and he comes back home and he says that the parcel could not be delivered, and then you interrogate that was it really true that Sham was not home? Was it checked properly? Was it looked at from all the angles? So what are the kind of questions that you would ask if you really want to make sure that yes, Ram was not home and the parcel could not be delivered? Is there anything that comes up in your mind? What are the questions that you would ask? What all aspects can be looked upon?
Some of the obvious things could be: did you ask the neighbors where they are? Did you ask when they're coming back? Things like that.
Okay. Did you ask the neighbor? Yes. Yes. Something more? Yes, Saurabh?
Maybe it should be Sham.
आपकी आवाज नहीं आ रही है ठीक?
अच्छा, is it better now?
Now better. हाँ.
हाँ, अगर राम ने बेल रिंग करी थी तो क्या ऐसा तो नहीं कि पावर कट हो गया और रिंग गई ना हो? तो नॉक भी किया था.
Absolutely.
Was he waited for another couple of minutes to say कि कोई आ रहा है कि नहीं आ रहा है?
Yeah.
कुछ आवाज आ रहा था अंदर से या it was a pin of silence?
Great. Yeah. So you're asking these questions and then you go further into it. Huh? Further questions could be asked that, as you said, maybe electricity was not there. Did you ask again? Did you knock the door again? Or did you peep through the window and check whether the lights and fans were on? Maybe he was inside. Or maybe did you call him on the cell phone?
Right.
Yeah, that could be asked. So we are just adding on the data so that our conclusion is correct. Yeah. So slowly, if you go further into it, then we can also ask that, did you check that maybe there were more doors to that house? Maybe one of them was locked, but did you check all the doors? Again, to make the data more comprehensive. And maybe some other door was open. Yeah. Now, supposing that Ram has checked all the doors, he has gone back, checked all the doors, made sure, yes, they are locked, All the other clues are also taken care of. No lights on, no fans on, electricity is also there. Yeah. And everything is pointing to one thing, which is Sham is not home. Yeah. Can I be still sure that Sham is not home? So we are just widening the mind. Yeah. Here. Now, someone can say maybe he fainted. You know, again, one thing which we cannot ignore, but obviously a rare thing to happen, but can be maybe Sham was inside, but he fainted and he could not answer the bell. Yeah, maybe Sham was fast asleep. But then again, we have to cross that, because if he was fast asleep, ringing the bell again and again, calling him on the cell phone, that would have waken him up from the dream. Yeah. So still we cannot be sure that Sham was not home. Yeah. So we are just again going further and further. And finally, towards the end of it, if one can say that, okay, show me your address. Did you go to the right address? You know, we are looking at Ram's paper. And then we see that, oh my God, the address is wrong. So maybe he went to a wrong house altogether. So we can see that no matter how much mental gymnastics we may do to make that sure that our data is complete, that we are addressing it from all the angles, still there is no absolute surety. तो जब भी हम scientific conclusions भी करते हैं, whatever research papers are out regarding vaccination, regarding anything, any particular disease, anything, we can be really sure that whatever truth is being revealed is only a tentative truth. The more we get to know about it, the more we realize that there is more to it, there is more to it. Yeah. So anything, even when we look at our own lives, anything that we really are certain of, again, that is a tentative truth. Because the more I get to know, the more I am again pushed into a deeper truth and a deeper truth and a deeper truth. And this is what happens with scientific, scientific papers and all, that 5 years ago, something else was known. Now, 7 years hence, something else is known. Yeah. So again, perspective changes, our own viewpoints changes. And this is how we widen our horizons, that we can truly, absolutely never be sure what we are saying. There is always a probability that this is 95% sure or 90% sure based on our experiences. The more experiences we gain, the more data comes to us, we realize that there can be more to it. So this was an example of logical thinking. Then I want to share one example of what we talk about, thesis, antithesis. So Sri Aurobindo talks about thesis, antithesis, where he says that pick up one idea and pick up any idea which is contradictory to it, appearing contradictory. And then you talk about it, you have a debate over it or a talk about it, and then you synthesize both of them in a larger view. So I want to take one example. Let us talk about contentment and discontentment. So one of you can pick that contentment is more important. Another one can pick that discontentment is more important. So if any one of you feels resonating with this idea, it would be nice to do it actually, like to engage in a conversation. If anyone wants
I would like to be the contented one.
Contentment. Okay. So
Contentment, yeah.
Sambhav wants to say that contentment is more important in life.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So if anyone wants to pick that discontent is more important.
Okay, I can go for that.
Okay. So then now both of you have to one by one. For example, Sambhav can start and Sambhav can share his reflections on why do you feel contentment is more important?
I believe contentment is important because to do anything in life, you need a right frame of mind. And that right frame of mind cannot come when you're agitated, irritated, anxious, or depressed. So contentment is a like a tool to eradicate all those things which I mentioned. When you are contented in life, you can really sit down and do a task properly with full efficiency, because you are contented from inside. So you're not hankering for a lot of you're not very so to say be fearful of failure, or you're not fearful of things going haywire. So in the inside you are totally contented, and then you can do things easily.
Okay. So Saurabh, you want to put forward a few points. Why is discontent you feel more important?
Right. So I do agree that contentment is I will say contentment is not the input, it's the end goal. And to reach to that stage, of course, discontentment is the thing which we have to do for. Like we say, no, if you need to come out of your comfort zone, then only you can achieve something. So I believe more than the contentment, the discontentment around us is the one which gives us a clue to say, yes, you need to do something, you need to change something. So those clues are very important to move to the journey of the contentment. So that's the reason I think for me, discontentment, those clues of discontentment is very, very important to observe ki kya ho raha hai.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Beautiful. So, can you see both of you? Can you see that both are required to reach a true contentment? And really, honestly, there is a contentment that we feel in life. Many a times we have phases that we reach a point that we feel contented. And if we look at our journey, how have we reached that contentment? Through going through our discontent. Because we were not contented with half contentment. So I was very discontent with half contentment. And that is the discontent that pushed me further and further and further, so that I have true contentment. Yeah. So this is how we synthesize any idea. And Sri Aurobindo talks about 3 aspects of the divine, which is Satyam, Ritam, Brihat. This has been discussed in Vedas also. So Satyam is the manifestation of truth. Brihat is the vastness, that wherever truth is, there will be a wideness to it. There will be a vastness to it. And Ritam is the right action. So wherever we are wanting to manifest truth in our life, along with that, there has to be a vastness with it. We cannot be narrow in our frame of mind. So that is what both of you were trying to kind of synthesize, that content is also important and discontent also has its own place. So this is how we become vast in our mental space. Yeah. And we realize that both of them are important. So let us take one more example, just to elaborate on the idea of thesis, antithesis, and then synthesis. So imagine that we have this in spirituality, we have this idea of neti neti and iti iti. So when we say neti neti, we are saying, I am not this, I am not this, or the divine is not this, not this, not this. Yeah, this is how you step back. And when we are saying iti iti, we are saying this is also it, this is also it. Yeah. So on the surface, both of the ideas appear contradictory. This is negating, okay, this is not it, this is not it, and this is saying this is also it, this is also it. So can you pick up one idea each, any one of you, just to explore? There is no right and wrong here, and see that how can they really be synthesized.
Okay, I will go for neti neti if you may.
Neti. ठीक है. You are going for neti neti, that divine is not this, not this, not this, or I am not this, not this, not this. So anyone who wants to pick up the idea of iti iti, which is this is also it, this is also it, just for the purpose of exploration. Birenji, you want to try?
Yeah, sure. Okay.
Yeah, try it. Yeah, it will be fun. Okay, so Sambhav, okay, go ahead. You share first.
Yeah. So neti neti means neither this nor that. I mean, negating everything that you say that this is also not divine, this is also not divine. So we see that we are living in a material world, and when we want to talk about something which is of the beyond, so how can that be a material thing? So when we say neti neti, we say this is this. When you point our finger to this will always be a material. If you go inwards, you talk about emotions or your feelings. Those are also the juices inside you, which are material things only. So how can those be divine? So that is why we say that this is not it, this is not it, this is not it, and hence that vacancy is created, in which we realize that okay, where I'm where this there's a space which is divine, which is not something that is material. So this is how we arrive at truth through neti neti, I believe.
Okay, okay. Birenji, you want to talk about iti iti? This
Yeah.
is also it. This is also it.
Yeah, so basically, there is divinity in everything, whether it is in us or whether it is outside us. In every breath that we take in every breath that we give out, both are life affirming actually, right? And both are necessary for life to proceed. So that is one part of it. The second part of it is that even if you look at people, everybody comes in different size and packages, but everybody has something good about them, and there is something divine, and everybody comes with a purpose in life. That purpose may be different from ours, but they still have their own purpose and usefulness in life. Every creature, howsoever small, has its own value in life. So there is divinity everywhere actually. It's for us to see it.
Beautiful. Yeah, yeah. So now we see that both of these contentions are true. How? Now imagine that I'm saying this is not it, that this speaker is not divine. I'm kind of stepping back. What I'm truly saying is that divine is much, 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 much more than this limited thing. Because the very idea that the divine is infinite tells me that how can divine be finite when I talk about infinity, when I talk about divine. But again, in that very idea, you will see that the very fact that I want to say that the divine is infinite, because this is also included in infinity. The finite is included in infinity. So here, what Birenji was sharing also becomes true. That this is also divine, this is also divine, this is also divine, this is also divine, this is also divine. But the divine is also more than all of that. So we can arrive at the divine through both iti iti or neti neti, because ultimately in neti neti we will realize that although I'm stepping back from all which is finite, since the divine is finite, if I truly realize the divine, I will know that there is no difference between the creator and its creation. Because the moment I say that the divine is something separate than the finite, I am actually making the divine finite. This is what I'm doing. I'm saying this finite is not divine. It means that the divine is also finite, something small. But since we say that the divine is everywhere, yeah, so all this is happening in the divine. So even the finite is divine. So this is how both this seeming opposing contradictions can actually find a harmony when we actually seek truth behind these. होता क्या है अक्सर that we are so attached to our uh, we are so emotionally attached to our mental opinions that we are not able to actually discuss this out. The moment you will start talking to the other person, kind of finding a deeper truth or harmony, you will see that the other person or you, we will start to take it on our selves that how dare you, you know kind of oppose me or something like that. So we are not able to objectively look at our mental opinions. We attach our emotions to it, and that is why we are never able to achieve this deeper harmony, uh, which can be achieved if we go deeper into these issues without attaching emotions to it. Yeah. So I think we have all felt that whenever we want to discuss these kind of things with anyone, a point reaches that the person begins to take it on its heart, and then the exploration becomes impossible. Yeah, so this was a few examples of thesis, antithesis, where what Sri Aurobindo has done in, for example, Synthesis of Yoga. What he has done there is he has included all the previous knowledge that is already there when he's writing the book, and he's given every knowledge its own place. So he has not negated anything. He has just given every knowledge its own place in the Synthesis of Yoga. So I think this is something which we can really use in our day-to-day practical life if we have people around us who are ready to explore. That whatever we are talking about, we can actually reach a deeper harmony if we are able to look at our opinions or beliefs in a more objective way and non-emotional way. Then only this exploration can happen. Okay, so I think that was yeah, another example. Let's take another example, just last one on this analysis and synthesis. Imagine that there is a person who is driving on the road, and he's arriving at a crossing, and he sees only the lower two lights. So only the yellow light and the green light are visible. Now, how would he make sure that whether he has to stop or whether he should go on? Because the red light is not visible in that signal. So what are the questions, if you are that driver, what are the questions you may ask if you are approaching that crossing and you have to make sure whether you want to just go ahead or stop at the traffic signal while you are not able to see the red light? So what are the questions you may ask? Yeah. To make sure that what is the next course of action you should be taking? Anything coming to you? Any question that can be asked?
So
Yeah.
yeah, the first question is probably what is the intensity or volume of traffic around. So if that is high, then you need to be more careful because you're not able to see the red lights basically.
Yeah.
So the second could be the visibility itself. Everything may be okay, but if there is fog and you're not able to see, then probably you need to go slower as you approach it because you're not able to see the red light even more. So these are some things that can be asked for.
Absolutely, absolutely. Anything more? Saurabh, you want to add on anything?
Maybe the additional, like if there is another opposite lane which is on the move, which can give me a signal to say, yes, this is not my turn, I have to wait.
Very good. Yeah.
Like that.
Yes. Yeah. So these are the questions which we can ask to make sure what is the right action that is to be taken. Or we can ask, is there another red light or a signal at a higher level? So one signal may be masked, but many a times there are two signals at one crossing. So one can ask, is there another higher light above? And if that is not there, then there is no further discussion. And if that light is working, then if it shows red, then one may just conclude that the right light is red and the lower light is not working or whatever, not visible. The other question one may ask is there a traffic jam? Because if there is a traffic jam there, as I think the volume of traffic which Birenji was sharing, that maybe the lights are defective at that particular crossing and one needs to be careful that maybe there is no traffic person also. The other question is that if there is a traffic police there, although the light may be not there, but is there a traffic police working? If the traffic police is there, then one has to slow down and imagine that or conclude that maybe electricity is not working or maybe the flow of traffic is too much, so that the traffic police has to intervene and the next course of action can be taken. Yeah. So these are a few ideas where he shares that how can we kind of widen our horizons, mental horizons, and look at things at various different angles, जो कि हम अक्सर मिस कर देते हैं. because we are so attached emotionally to our mental opinions that we miss looking at things at a larger, at a wider level. I think that's these are the examples I wanted to share with you. This was again regarding logical thinking and thesis, antithesis, and then synthesizing around it. And now there is this. Okay, let us explore this. So when we talk about our opinions, this is my opinion on this. Mother shares that are these opinions really ours? I'll just share this with you here on the screen. So these are, this is a little excerpt picked up from Mother's words of long ago, where she is sharing, ask yourself why you have this opinion. And the answer will almost invariably be because it is the opinion prevalent in your environment. For example, maybe somebody is not getting married and I'm saying, oh, it's too bad, she or he must get married. So can I ask myself, why have I this opinion about it? And it will be really easy for me to see that since the society or the culture I live in is mostly talking about marriage only, that this is the purpose of you being here, get married and get settled and whatever. That is why I am having that opinion, because it is the opinion prevalent in your environment, because it is considered good to have it. Yeah. And therefore it saves you from as many clashes. So if I decide to be single, then I will have to answer every question that I receive on that being single. But if I marry, then I'm saved from all that criticism. So what we call as my own opinion is really not my own opinion. It is just coming from the conditioning. And then I can ask, maybe it's an opinion which I got from my parents, what I was taught as a child. And it has become, I have internalized that opinion and I've never questioned it really, whether it is beneficial for me to that kind of an opinion or not. Yeah. So mother is sharing that by questioning our own opinions, by questioning our own limiting thoughts or beliefs, we actually feel a sense of a liberation. And we stop to give our power away to every limiting thought or belief that we are harboring. So she says that we are products determined by all our past history, impelled by the blind and arbitrary will of our contemporaries. So maybe there is a person or there is a culture that is going on where there is a stress upon a particular kind of dress. Yeah. And what I am doing is I am just going anti that culture because I want to revolt. So I don't even know, but I am actually run by those contemporaries. I'm saying that I'm revolting, but even in my revolt, what I'm actually doing is I'm actually run by that popular culture or popular dogma regarding the dress that is there, since I want to do everything against it. Yeah, I think that there is one story of Osho here where he shares that he decided that he would just do everything that his father says. He would not do that. Maybe Mullah Nasruddin, I've just heard it maybe through Osho only. So Mullah Nasruddin's story, if I'm not remembering wrongly, he's everything that the father says, Mullah does the opposite. So the father catches this idea of Mullah, that whatever I do, he does the opposite. So it is very easy now. Now the father says the opposite so that the Mullah can do what the father really wants. So like this, we become really predictable. If we are always wanting to revolt against the social norms. While if we truly connect with our own self, with our own deeper being, then we realize that at times revolt may be necessary, and at times no revolt, no rebellion may be necessary. Just following our inner call may be necessary. So I think today, since we are not many of us, I had just planned these games for us, or just these kind of exploration, what I was doing with you: logical thinking, critical thinking, synthesis, antithesis. I think this is what I wanted to share. And the last thing I want to share is, I think this already got covered. Don't need to reiterate it again. Yeah, just let me share a few points. If the mind is to keep its vigor and youth and must progress constantly, it should revise its notions in the light of all knowledge, enlarge its frame to include fresh notions, and constantly reclassify and reorganize its thoughts so that each one of them may find its proper place in relation to others and thus stand harmoniously and orderly. So this is what we were trying to do when we were trying to analyze any one particular thing from a all kind of different point of views. And even then we see that although the data may be correct, we have looked at the thing from all the different angles, still surety can never be there. We can never be sure about our conclusion. I think that makes us really very humble and grounded to see that we can never be truly sure of things. There'll always be a deeper and deeper truth that will get revealed to us. So I think this is where we will end the mental education, the education of the intellect, observation power, thinking, logic, analysis. And in the next chapter or the next class, we will take up the education of the vital, which is the emotional being in us. And this is the being through which we are mostly run. We are not run mostly by intellect, buddhi. We are mostly run by emotions, most of us. Although a few of us may be run purely by reason. So it is good to understand the vital being or the emotional being. So I think I'll stop the sharing here. If there is anything we want to discuss, we can take up that, either related to the session today or maybe something else.
Yeah, Monica, I have a couple of queries. So, I mean, connecting from yesterday's discussion. So, Abhi, like, for example, if I'm trying to understand, yesterday we talked about we being the observer. And I think in this Sunday's session, we are mostly focusing about the buddhi part, or the how to make man more capable of.
So far, because this
right.
was mental education. Yeah.
Right. So, are these two connected, or अगर मुझे फोकस करना है अपना, तो देयर आर टू वेज. या तो मैं अपने मन को विद भक्ति योग और उन सब से थोड़ा बेटर कर लूं, या आई कीप disassociating myself with the mind and say कि नहीं, whatever mind does, let it do. Let me be the observer only. I should not course correct my mind.
Okay.
So
okay. Yeah, so beautiful question, very relevant, Saurabh. Thank you for asking this. Dekho, observer is something where I don't have to do anything. A continuous witnessing is going on in my being. It is not an active process that you have to do. Yeah. The activity that we have to do, if it can be called an activity, is just the realization that yes, all there is in my life since childhood, there has been one single continuity, and that continuity of this witnessing awareness. This is a noticing that I have to do. There is no activity here required. So I don't have to become the observer. I am the observer. ठीक है, तो पहली बात तो ये है. Now, when we talk about integral yoga of Mother and Sri Aurobindo, our journey on the path of yoga or transformation or making life better and better starts at this realization that yes, there is one single continuity in my being. That continuity is of this witnessing awareness. This is what we call as nirvana, but not at the intellectual level. If I've just understood the concept of it, that is not nirvana for me. Yeah, nirvana for me is when I am relieved of the bondage of ego or the separate self, me and my story, through the realization that yes, all that is continuous in my being, that can never leave me, is this presence of consciousness which is self-aware. Even when you are asleep, it is not leaving you, because who knows in you that you were fastly asleep, you were deep sleep, because rest, every part was deep sleep. But when you get up in the morning and I ask you, did you have a good sleep, deep sleep, something in you knows that you had a good sleep, deep sleep. So if everything in you was sleeping, who would know that the sleep was good? So that witnessing is not an activity to be done, it is going on. What my task is, because as a separate self I suffer, yeah, as when I think of me and my story, I suffer. So my task is to more and more realize for myself that I am not the fleeting coming and going of emotions or thoughts or feelings or stories in my head. I am this continuous presence of awareness. Through this realization, what we call as self-realization, one little step, I am free of the bondage of ego. That is the first step. Now, what we are talking here in integral yoga, this is the successive steps, or maybe to be done parallelly, because I have these instruments of mind, emotions, and the physical being. These are the instruments that are there. Yeah. Now, parallelly knowing who I truly am, I have also to master these movements. Otherwise, what is the faida of self-realization? That although I am self-realized, there is bliss within, but the moment I interact with the world, suffering comes back because the instruments are still old-fashioned. So what we are talking here is that in the light of that knowing yourself as awareness, now slowly I can master my movements, master the mental, master the emotional, and master the physical. So this is how I believe they are connected. Because that is what our task is as human beings, to make this earthly life beautiful in the light of divine. In my forest, in my bliss, I can be absolutely okay. But the moment I enter earthly life and begin to use the instruments of mind, emotions, and feelings, immediately ugliness comes. So now, with the light of that understanding that I am this awareness, there is nothing lacking in me as awareness, but there is much, much more to be refined when I talk about the instruments of the mind, emotions, and the physical being. Would it make any sense to your question?
Indeed. I think makes a lot of sense. तो अभी now that then I have a query to say कि अगर mind को समझाना है तो like पतंजलि का जो अष्टांग योगा है कि by all these 8 wings of yoga, yam niyam and all, if we keep following, so mind will be in control. Or like Gita talks about कि कर्म करो और भगवान को समर्पित करो या भक्ति योगा, all those things. In addition to that, जो हमारे यहाँ पे जो बात हम कर रहे हैं कि something is parallelly कुछ और भी methods हैं. मतलब I think if I can understand, these are the methods how to क्या बोलते हैं control the mind. Control मतलब कि how to fine tune the mind.
बिल्कुल बिल्कुल. देखो सौरभ, the thing is that आप जब वो वाली बात कर रहे हो ना, कर्म करते जाओ, फल की चिंता मत करो, वो हम तब तक नहीं कर सकते जब तक I don't know myself as awareness. If I know myself as the character of the story in my head, मुझे होगी फल की चिंता और मैं बहुत तड़पूंगी उसकी वजह से. But if I know myself not conceptually but practically, that all there is in my life is this presence of awareness which never leaves me, never ever leaves me. If practically it becomes my experience, then I can actually begin to live Gita, where he says, कर्म करते जाओ, फल की चिंता मत करो. Because if I am living as a separate self, which is full of lack, sense of lack, then I will try to fulfill myself through anything that I do. My work should fulfill me, my relationship should fulfill me, because I feel this continuous sense of lack. So the moment I know myself as the awareness within, there I don't feel this sense of lack, although I am aware that there is so much to be done when it comes to the refinement of mind, refinement of emotions, and the refinement of the physical being also. तो गीता का जो उपदेश है वो भी मेरे लिए तब सार्थक होता है जब मैं ये पहला स्टेप करूं. दिस इज द फर्स्ट स्टेप. Now there is no method to it per se. The only method, if you can call that a method, is constant remembrance, which actually is very simple. And that is where we get lost, because mind always looks for sophisticated methods and techniques. Because methods and techniques perpetuate the mind, perpetuate the ego. But if I tell you that you don't need to do anything, your true nature is right here with you, then the mind becomes baffled. Now the ego cannot perpetuate. That is why they call it Sahaj. It's the direct and easiest path. Yeah, you were sharing something, Saurabh?
नहीं, I mean, हाँ, तो भी करना क्या, मतलब अगर करें क्या करें, मतलब अगर on this journey of self realization, indeed I am the observer is the continuous feeling that might take time to continuous आने में time लगेगा.
हाँ हाँ. तो अब करना क्या है ना? करना क्या
हाँ,
है?
माइंड को
करना ये
समझाना कैसे कि
समझा.
भाई,
Yeah.
हाँ,
So
डिजायर्स आएंगी,
anytime,
right.
anytime that I engage in any worldly action, the moment you see desire springing up, you can actually ask yourself, is this desire springing from the separate self, the ego, or this desire truly a compassionate desire? For example, there may be a desire to feed the stray dogs. Now that desire is not springing up from a sense of incompletion within. It's a compassionate desire. So go ahead and fulfill it. But if there is a desire, maybe to consume a lot of food since I'm feeling so incomplete, can you just be aware of that sense of incompletion and not act through that sense of incompletion?
हाँ, I am aware of कि mostly I do feel a desire for some food or say ginger tea. But how to suppress that? And if suppression
सप्रेस करना क्यों है? सप्रेस क्यों करना है?
नहीं करना, ठीक है, तो when I consume that, is that if I continue consuming that, so फिर वही होगा, millions of years will continue. I will not be able to get out of that desire.
Who said so?
I feel so कि desires never suppressed. I mean, आप fulfill करते रहो और वो बनी रहेंगी.
देखो, डिजायर की ना ये बात ही बहुत अच्छी है. डिजायर क्या करती है? आपको एक ऐसा धोखा देती है कि जो पीस और हैप्पीनेस हम ढूंढ रहे हैं वो आपको कुछ करके मिलेगी. यही कहती है ना डिजायर, कि आप चाय पी लो, देन यू विल बी कंटेंटेड. So the very fact that masters have said that stay away from fulfillment of desires, rather don't follow the desire, why they have said so is that desire takes me away from my true nature of fulfillment and contentment, because it creates an illusion that once you do this, then you will be complete. Now it is okay to have tea. It is completely fine to have tea. But when you are having tea, just know that this is not going to fulfill me. Enjoy the tea. Have the rasa of or the delight of the tea. But just know that this inner void that we feel, this is just something which cannot be fulfilled by any object of sense perception. This can only be fulfilled knowing yourself as awareness in which nothing lacks. तो हमें अभी जो आप पूछ रहे थे करना क्या है, हमें करना ये है that I have to, if I look at my own self, you know, again sharing my own experiences, that practically 24 hours a day, I have to just know myself as this awareness. There is no other way. जब तक वो मेरा प्रैक्टिकल ट्रुथ नहीं बनेगा, एवरीथिंग एल्स विल रिमेन थ्योरी. ये एक छोटा सा स्टेप है जिसमें हम आपको अपने आप को डिप करते रहना है बार बार. एंड enjoy the tea, you know, who says don't enjoy the tea? Yeah, please share.
Right. No, indeed, I do agree that this is the most toughest part, I will say. It's a long process, I feel. Continuous process.
Continues to है, continues to है. Yeah, absolutely.
So Monica ji, my question is, you know, because I've been on this journey fairly recently in the last 2 years or so. It's not a, I don't have all the answers. I don't know. Okay, I keep continuously reflecting, but you know, I still don't have a clue on how do you arrive at what is your true nature actually. When do you know that this is your true nature?
Yeah. So again, a few pointers, Birenji, hints and pointers. Now, if it is my true nature, you know, then one can be sure that I will never be away from it, since it is my true nature. You know, पानी का nature क्या है? शीतल करना. Cooling is the effect of water. It's the nature of water. Now you cannot separate the cooling effect from water. This cannot happen. This separation cannot happen. And hence, when we talk about our true nature, which is of contentment and fulfillment, we can just know that you can never be away from it. Now, when you can never be away from it, and why it is very difficult, I think Saurabh was sharing his difficulty. And not only Saurabh and us, everybody experiences a difficulty here. What happens is that when something is too close to us, it is hard to observe it. It is hard to become cognizant of it. You know, imagine that this speaker is there. Now, if this speaker is a little bit at a distance from me, it's easy to observe that, okay, this is how it looks. But when we talk about our true nature, it is not like at a distance from me. And hence the difficulty arises. Because all our senses are used to is looking at things from a distance. You know, when you are looking at your thoughts, again, there is a little bit of distance. What we fail to look at is the looking which looks at thoughts. To look at thoughts is easier. To look at feelings is easy. To look at a pain in my body is again easy. But to look at my true nature, the looking itself, it appears very hard. So that is what, and it is very subtle. This is why masters have called this Sukshma Gyan. It's a very subtle Gyan, because all our senses are trained in is looking at external, that which is at a distance from me. Now, my true nature is not at a distance from me. So when we want to immerse ourselves in our true nature, just stay with me in this example. You are looking at your thoughts. You're looking at your story in the head. You're looking at the feelings or emotions you may be having. Just take a step back. look at the looking itself. And not the content of looking. Usually we are lost in the content of looking. So look at the looking itself. That is where we find rest. Now looking is just enough. Looking is full and content in itself. Looking is joy in itself. But what we do usually is we look for something that creates the misery. Yeah. So this is how we bring our horses back. What Sri Krishna would say in Gita. Control. This is how we bring our horses back. So the horses are going along with the sense perception. The horses are running out into the world, or if not into the world, within my own world, inner world. I'm always looking at thoughts. I'm always looking at feelings. I'm always looking at physical sensations. I'm always looking at my desires, but I'm never looking at the looking itself. This looking, this is what we call as consciousness, is our true nature. All there is consciousness itself. Self-aware, luminous. So this is how one can, if I can say, become cognizant of our true nature. Just know that no method can take you there. Saurabh was asking for method. Saurabh, method हमको तब चाहिए होता है जब मुझे ऐसी जगह पहुंचना है जो मेरे से दूर है. No, for example, if I ask you, okay, Saurabh, ये एड्रेस है, इस पे ये डिलीवर करना है. You will need a method. You will need a vehicle. But when I talk, Saurabh, take one step towards you. What method do you need? You cannot take even a step towards you because you are you. So every method that you will use will take you further away, will create an illusion that you are going away from yourself. It will create a veil between you and your true nature. Because true nature by its name is very own, is my very own. It cannot be taken away from me. And hence no master can give it to you. No guru can give it to you. What guru does for us is, guru points at it. वो हमारी आंखें खोल देते हैं. गुरु जो होते हैं, वचन जो होते हैं गुरुओं के, वो हमारी बंद आंखों को खोल देते हैं. This is the compassion of the guru. So एक तरह से हम ये बोल भी सकते हैं कि गुरु ने मुझे नया जीवन दिया, क्योंकि अगर आपकी आंखें बंद रहती और आप you are sitting on your own treasure, not realizing your true nature. Doesn't matter whether it's a treasure or not. You're sitting on it. But if now the eyes are open, then you can make use of it. So when we talk about our true nature, we have to really slow down and see that no method can take me towards my own self. Just an opening of eye is needed. And when I'm looking at things all the time, owing to an old habit of looking at things all the time, and even thoughts are things, feelings are things, desires are also things. Can I also now look at the looking itself? Just stay there as much as you can. Look at the looking. Yeah, and the side effect is, the byproduct of being in your true nature knowingly, is you experience contentment and inner joy without any reason. this is the byproduct. This will tell you that although then you would not be needing any confirmations, but you will feel contented in your own being, happy to be yourself. And then knowing that there is a lot of work still to be done at the level of mind, emotions, and physical, their refinement. Would that make any sense, Birenji?
Yes, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
तो उनका अगर 5 मिनट और है तो
हाँ हाँ
क्या
बिल्कुल.
तो क्या जो बंदा ऑब्जर्वर है क्या उसको जेलसी नहीं होगी, या होगी तो वो कैसे फिर उसको टैकल करेगा?
देखो, जेलसी हमें क्यों होती है? कोई बंदा मेरे से ज्यादा कमा रहा है और मुझे लग रहा है कि वो खुश है, तो मेरे को जेलसी होती है कि यार मेरे जितना इसका स्टेचर है और मेरे से ज्यादा कमा रहा है, मेरे को भी चाहिए. एक्चुअली में मेरे को चाहिए क्या? खुशी ना, कि और कुछ चाहिए? सोचो. Even through jealousy, what do you need actually?
Yeah, happiness.
Happiness. So once you see that by being jealous and by looking at others and comparing yourself, is it actually making you happy? Has it ever made anyone happy? So all that we are looking for is our true nature, which is contentment and happiness. But we are looking at a wrong place. वो कहते हैं ना कबीर, कस्तूरी कुंडल बसे मृग ढूंढे बन माही, ऐसे घट घट राम है दुनिया देखत नहीं. सो कस्तूरी डियर की नाभि से फ्रेग्रेंस निकल रही है, बट ही इज नॉट एबल टू सी, अरे कहां कहां कहां. सो राम, ऐसे घट घट राम है. व्हाट इज राम हियर? कंटेंटमेंट एंड हैप्पीनेस. So what Kabir points at in this couplet, I believe, is that happiness and contentment is your true nature. You are not going to find it anywhere. So even by rational analysis, you see that jealousy is not something that you will follow then. You will only follow jealousy when it has not become a practical experience to know your true nature. You have only a conceptual understanding of it. It has not become a visceral bodily experience for you. Looking at the looking, staying there, and knowing yourself as that looking. कि अगर मैं looking हूं, there is nothing incomplete in the looking. Looking is very happy to look at a desire, and looking is also happy to look at a praise. To looking, it does not make a difference whether it's praise or insult. आप देखो ना, if looking at praise, it's just a looking. Looking at insult, it's again just a looking. So neither does looking become higher or more by praise, and neither does it get down by insult. So if I know myself as that looking, not conceptually, again in knowing my practical experience, then slowly you would see that there would not be any need for the jealousy to arise, because now you have contentment and happiness. So also, this realization is also very important, that all we are looking, whether to greed, lust, ambition, pride, all that we are looking is this lasting peace and happiness, which is not to be found anywhere, because it is our true nature, which we are ignorant of right now. So all that is to be done is आंखें खोलनी है. तो if you talk about a method, we can only talk about कि आंखें कैसे खुल जाएं. तो हमें ये जानना होगा कि आंखें बंद कैसे हुई हैं. तब ये क्वेश्चन करना है कि what are the things that I do throughout the day which makes my sleep even more घनघोर. उनको धीरे धीरे त्यागना है. Just like when we talk about cleanliness, कि मुझे साफ करना है आज ये कमरा, तो मैं ये नहीं कहती कि मुझे बाहर से cleanliness लेके आनी है. What I do is I clean that garbage from the room. So when we talk about opening my eyes through to my true nature, then all that I have to look at is what are the things that I do throughout the day which makes my eyes closed, which do not let my eyes open. And hence comes the importance of being vigilant. And hence also comes the importance of satsangat. Because satsangat, Kabir कहते हैं, Kabir नहीं, Kabir or Rahim, I can't remember. He says, एक घड़ी आधी घड़ी आधी में पुनियाद, कबीर संगत, हाँ कबीर ये, कबीर संगत साधु की कटे कोटि अपराध. So he says, एक घड़ी भी नहीं अगर कर पा रहे हो तो आधी करो सत्संगत, आधी नहीं कर पा रहे हो कि आधी की भी आधी करो, और उतनी घड़ी ही तुम्हारी नींद खोलने के लिए बहुत होगी. कबीर संगत साधु की कटे कोटि अपराध. So this is what, if you want to say practice or a method, constant remembrance, opening ourselves to some or the other kind of satsangat which opens our eyes to our own true nature.
Right.
Yeah.
I think the struggle which all of us go through, maybe we can continue it next time or something, but
Yeah.
the struggle that all of us go through is this constant expectations from our immediate, circle of people, and, who want us to earn more, work longer, provide for longer, all this stuff. And it's a never ending, so conceptually one understands, give up all attachments, but then how far do you take it in real life? It's the real issue actually, because most of us face these things, right? In a country where there is no social security, you earn as much as you can till you get exhausted, basically.
Yeah, absolutely with you, Gurenji. I think हम ना क्या करते हैं, the moment we talk of looking at the looking, for example, now I have not drenched myself into this knowing, but the very talking about it, immediately I go to the next step. मुझे लगता है this is to be avoided. So I am now saying that अच्छा, my true nature तो हो गया, आगे की बात करो कि ये कैसे करें. Now the very thing is that, are you sure that once you are totally immersed in consciously knowing who you truly are you sure that those disturbances will still disturb you or will still remain? What is the surety? ये वही बात हो गई कि अभी स्विमिंग की मैंने बात ही करी है इंस्ट्रक्टर से, और मैं अभी इमेजिन कर रही हूँ कि हाउ वुड इट बी इन द वाटर. हाउ कैन आई नो? Just conceptually theorizing about swimming, not really jumping into the water, I cannot really know much what is to come. Yeah, so this is the nature of the mind. सिर्फ हमारी बात नहीं है, सबकी बात होती है कि the moment I say, अच्छा ट्रू नेचर तो ठीक है, रियलाइज हो गया, आगे की बात करो. अरे भाई, ट्रू नेचर तो पहले रियलाइज कर लो, अभी वो तो हुआ नहीं है, और अभी हम आगे की बात ऐसे कर रहे हैं कि हमें पता है कि आगे क्या होने वाला है. Yeah. So again, this is owing to that there is so much of life force within us. It jumps ahead in time. So let us take few baby steps. I would say stay with the baby steps. And in day-to-day movements that we are living, can we knowingly look at the looking and not always absorbed or lost in the content of the looking? And then slowly see how unfolding of life happens for us. Who knows what happens? Yeah.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you. Chalo, thank you, Saurabh.
Thank you so much.
Anything more?
No, thank you. I think
Theek
lot to contemplate on that.
Yeah,
Thank you
same
so much.
here. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you
Bye-bye.
so much, Saurabh and Virenji. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.